You can do a ton of stuff in games nowadays. So much so that it's not always immediately obvious the extent. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 hidden features that took us 50 plus hours to realize. Starting off with number 10, you can web slingshot into the air in Spider-Man 2. By the third Insomniac Spider-Man game, you'd think we'd have everything figured out by now, but the devs still have a few tricks up their sleeves. This feature's not exactly hidden per se, but it's something you'd think you'd be able to do. Everybody already knows about the web slingshot, which you can use to hurl yourself into the air with an instant boost of speed, basically like a spin dash, but for Spider-Man. I've seen some people complain about how you can't slingshot while in midair. But here's the thing, you technically can. Strong emphasis on the word technically here, but you can. Yeah, you can't jump in the air, hit the button to slingshot, and immediately start boosting whenever you want. But if you use the new webline gadget, then you can slingshot from up in the air. Yeah, you're not literally flying, but you're still pretty high up. This is something I just assumed wasn't possible, so I never tried it, but hey, look, it works. So I took it a step further and I tried to stop a train with it, like in the movie. You know the part where Tobey Maguire passes out because he's so damn heroic, and people see his face, but they're like, we're not gonna screw this guy over. He just saved us. Well, hey, it doesn't work in the game. At number 9, there are edible rhinoceros beetles in the Resident Evil 4 remake. For all the weird random stuff that showed up in the original Resident Evil 4, most fans just assumed the remake would dial back the weird, and in some places, yeah, sure, they did. But if anything, they actually added some more weird features to the remake. Stuff like being able to ring the bell at the opening fight to end it early. That's actually really strange if you think about it. Or that bizarre golden egg trick that does tons of damage to one of the bosses. Both of these tricks I knew, but for whatever reason, never noticed the beetles. There's only 3 of them in the game, but unlike every other thing you can pick up, they don't shine or do anything to draw attention to themselves at all. The only way you'd even know you can pick them up is to go up to them and see the prompt to pick them up. They're all out in really out-of-the-way places, so you never really naturally brush up against them, and for some reason, they're extremely valuable. The merchant will buy them for an absolute ton of money, but even better, if you eat them, they actually increase Leon's max health. These bugs are incredibly helpful to find, and they're crazy easy to miss. They're the only thing you can pick up that doesn't just show up on the map in any way. They don't glow, they don't shine, and from far away they're practically indistinguishable from all the regular inedible bugs that are all over the place in Resident Evil 4. It's an incredibly easy thing to go through the whole game without realizing these are things at all, but they're real. Why they're in the game, I have no idea, but they are there and are real. At number 8, Navigation Assist isn't just for the main quest in God of War Ragnarok. A little used feature in this game was Navigation Assist, where if you pressed R3 with it enabled, it would show you on this glowing line where to go for your next objective. A lot of games use this like somewhere. Like Dead Space, I think, is where it was popularized. But in Ragnarok, it's turned off by default. Many players didn't use this at all, just because it's a feature that's kind of buried in menus, while the people who did turn it on often missed out on a crucial detail that actually makes it one of the most useful things in the game. When you do turn Navigation Assist on, it kind of seems a little useless. Normally it leads you to the next main quest objective, and that's not normally a difficult thing to find. If you're just playing through the game normally, most people won't really need this, and the main path, it's pretty easy to follow for the most part. Collectible hunting, whole other story though. Going back through some of the areas to try to find collectibles can be a nightmare, as certain areas like Vanaheim are so confusing to navigate when you're backtracking, and the map really doesn't help. That's when the true usefulness of Navigation Assist reveals itself. If you place a custom waypoint on the map, then the glowing line that appears when you press R3 will take you there instead. This mostly unknown feature makes it so much easier to backtrack. Believe me, I wasted so much time wandering around lost in some of these areas. I wish I knew about this feature. It would have made collectible gathering way, way less painful. And number 7, the maps affect each other in Tears of the Kingdom. Of the many changes and additions made to the world of Hyrule in Tears of the Kingdom, the addition of the depths is probably the most intriguing. It's an entire underground world shrouded in darkness. It may seem entirely random, a whole new map disconnected from anything on the surface, but the longer you play the game, the more clear it becomes the depths are in many ways a mirror of the surface. It took me a long time to start noticing this stuff, but when I did, I started to see it everywhere. Like there's a town on the surface, and then there's a grand mine in the same spot in the depths. That's the most obvious, but there's a lot more. If there's a shrine on the surface, there's a light route in the same place. It's really helpful for shrine hunting in particular. If there's a forest above, there's a grove below. If there's a mountain on the surface, there's a deep chasm in the depths. These parallels are everywhere. Rivers and deep water on the surface are cavern walls underground. If there's graves above, there's ghost soldiers holding weapons below. Goddess statues have bargainer statues below. List goes on. What seems like a completely disconnected place starts to look really familiar after a while, but it just takes a little time to notice. And number 6, you can memorize spells in Baldur's Gate 3. Maybe you figured this one out instantly, but I'm not too proud to admit that it took till near the end of the game to realize you could do this. And there are apparently a lot of other people that are just as oblivious as me out there, because I see people confused by this all the time. I'm not a total fool. I know memorizing spells from scrolls in D&D is a thing. And I remember doing it in the previous 2 Baldur's Gate games, but after opening, I just assumed Larian removed the feature for maybe balancing purposes or something. But it's there. It's not even all that hidden. If you're a wizard, you can select any scroll and memorize it, but you do have to have your wizard selected and hopefully aren't affected by a bug that makes it so this entire menu doesn't show up. With a controller, it's even harder to find. I've seen a lot of PC players confused by this whole thing too, but yeah, there's a lot of other secrets and hidden things in this game, but those aren't so much features. They're literally just meant to be secrets. This is a spell memorization menu. It's not meant to be a secret, but tons of people missed it anyway. And number 5, you can boost horizontally in Starfield. Ever get annoyed with how slow it can feel to run around on foot? Well, there is a way to speed things up. It's just not documented anywhere. It's kind of obscure, and I'm not sure if it's intentional by Bethesda. God, like, look, this doesn't really seem like something you're supposed to do. Normally, the jetpack just boosts you up vertically, but there's a secret alternate boost that sends you traveling horizontally forward instead. So instead of slowing you down, if you're trying to cross a long distance, it'll speed you up. To do it, you need to bind a secondary key to the jetpack in the controls menu. That's what I mean by saying I'm not sure it's intentional. Every other secondary key in the game just does what you'd expect it to do. It's just another button you can use to shoot or whatever. But the jetpack just does something completely different. And thankfully they haven't patched it out, so maybe it could have been intentional. Who really knows? But it's a simple key binding that makes it way faster to explore when you're on foot. And number 4, you can freeze machines before hacking them in BioShock. One of the great joys of BioShock are its many varied plasmid powers, from the basic electroshock to the still disgusting insect swarm power, where you shoot bees at the enemies. These things were a lot of fun to use. Probably one of the best was Winter's Blast, where you could freeze enemies and just have you wail on them. But did you know the freeze power had another use? On top of freezing enemies, you could also freeze machines like cameras and turrets, and that caused them to stop working, but you could still hack them while they're frozen, which made the minigame a lot easier. Like, remember the hacking game from BioShock? You had to connect tubes together so this liquid could get to the end? It's slowly filling up, so you have to move pretty fast. And it's pretty easy at first, but the later game ones can be pretty frustrating, at least without the special upgrades that make them easier. Freezing, another handy solution though. It makes sense. It's literally freezing the liquid, making it way easier to complete the puzzle. This is one of those features I didn't notice until like the 3rd replay of the game, but it's easy to overlook, so I'm not dumb or anything. At number 3, the shooting segment can be way easier in the OG Dead Space. Argue the merits of the original versus the remake all you want, but I think we can all agree that when it comes to asteroid shooting, the remake did it way better. The section that we're referring to here in the original game was absolute torture, especially if you're playing on a controller. But there was a way to make it a lot easier. To fire the turret, you press RT, right? But what most people, myself included, didn't know is that you can also press LT. Pressing both triggers made the turret fire much faster, which made it easier to take out incoming asteroids, which made the entire segment a lot easier. I'm not saying easy, because I don't think the difficulty is really fully a design choice unless you consider good and bad to be design choices. But this one, it's not stated anywhere in the game that you can do this. It's just one of those things that people just randomly figure out by tapping buttons. Thing is, it's not even immediately obvious that you're shooting faster, so you may have actually tried it and thought it didn't do anything. Pulling both triggers, though, works. It makes the segment less frustrating. I'm not going to say not frustrating or even like good. I'm staying as far away from that as I can. This is not a good segment. It's still way worse than the remake's interpretation. But at least it's not so excruciating to finish. Well, at number 2, you can redirect enemy rockets in Half-Life. Chapter 12 is where things get real in the first game, and this is where the military just pulls out all the stops to take you down. You, a scientist with a frickin' crowbar, you now have to deal with soldiers, helicopters, tanks. These are the most dangerous things in the game, unless you know a little trick that renders them pretty harmless. The rocket launcher in Half-Life is one of the all-time greats. This is not just a dummy rocket like in most games. Instead, the rocket actually follows the red dot. Every rocket is a guided rocket. It's awesome. I love it, actually. But so this probably is just a result of some limitation in programming, but what's really amazing about the rocket launcher is that enemy rockets also follow your red dot, not just yours. Like, look at this. Firing rockets like crazy, but every shot gets deflected by the laser sight. They're just crashing into walls. This isn't one of those features that took me 50 hours to realize either. More like 2.5 decades. I just had no idea this was possible at all. It only works on rare rocket launch tanks, but for the few you do find, it's a pretty great feature. And finally, at number 1, for some reason you can tiptoe in Metal Gear Solid 2. The Metal Gear games are well known for their convoluted control schemes that let players do all kinds of things. But as a longtime player of the franchise, I'm almost ashamed to admit I never realized this was possible. I only just now noticed it playing the Master Collection re-release. For whatever reason, if you hold R1 and go into first person and then hold L2 and R2 at the same time, your main guy is going to stand on his toes and raise up his vision a few inches higher. It's almost completely pointless, might I add, except for one section, the Shell 1 to 2 connecting bridge. I've seen people claim the tiptoe move is required to get through that section on hard mode or higher, but no, I've definitely beaten the game on harder difficulties and never used it, so maybe it's just really helpful. For all the weird movement powers you get in this series that serve almost no purpose, this is maybe the most pointless of all of them. Literally all it does is make it so you're slightly taller in first person. I don't know why it's in the game. I don't know who put it in the game. If this is just a goofy little like, tee-hee, I'm Hideo Kojima and I'm weird thing or not, I don't know. Also, I have no evidence that he has ever intentionally sounded like that anywhere, or accidentally for that matter. Just never, no evidence. But that's the spirit of Kojima right there. Don't even tell me that it's not. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment and let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.